Hello and welcome to another episode of Raman Rewinds. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about one of the most charismatic cricketers Indian cricket has ever had. Apart from his charisma as an individual and a lovely, stylish batter, his captaincy was rated very highly by people who played in his team and also by the rivals. And of course, apart from his captaincy and his batting ability, he was a fantastic fielder, and his propensity to play practical jokes on his teammates is something of folklore. I'm sure you would have guessed who I'm talking about or who I'm referring to is none other than Nawab Pataudi Jr. He was made to lead the Indian side at a very young age and he did a fantastic job out of it. It's interesting that a man who came from a royal family played cricket with such determination. I say this because he lost his eye in an accident and even the daily chores were a problem for him. I recall seeing one interview in which he had mentioned that even picking up a glass of water to drink from it was a big issue after the accident. That being the case, he had the determination and he really fought hard against the odds to play cricket and play extremely well at that. In the same interview that I was referring to a couple of minutes ago, he also made one significant statement when asked as to what life was upon losing one eye. He said, "I've only lost my sight, not my vision." That was a great statement, and that statement, in fact, inspired me to write a book wherein I'm trying to suggest that there's a lot of learning for business and sport to feed off from each other. However, that's for another day and another time. But as of now, sticking to Tiger Pataudi, I don't remember seeing much of him. And even if I'd seen whatever it is that I've seen of him, I can only remember very vaguely. Yes, there was a test match in 74-75 against Clive Lloyd's men, which was played at Chepauk. I remember being there, but I was just about 9 or 10 years of age then, and I can't recall much of what happened in that game, except for the fact that I can recall a few cricketers who played in that test match. Apart from that, nothing really is registered in my mind. I can't recall anything else. But later on, I obviously got to hear a lot more about Tiger Pataudi from his contemporaries and from people who played under his captaincy. And all of them have only one thing to say unanimously, that he was brilliant. Tiger Pataudi is a kind of person who can leave an impression upon you, even if you don't meet him at all personally. I say this because he had that flair, he had that inherent charisma, he had that magnetic personality which would make an impression on people. For example, even though I had not met him when I was in my late teens, I was extremely impressed, and I would make it a point to read his editorial in one of the sports magazines he was writing for. Mind you, he would just write about 150, 120 or 200 words, and he would keep it short and simple, and he would convey a lot in those few words. It takes tremendous talent for somebody to do that. I would tend to think that a lot of people would perhaps use 700, 800 words to express what Tiger could express in 150 words. Brevity is something that is synonymous with Tiger Pataudi, and he was also succinct. He won't really ramble on too much, and that is what made him extremely respected by everybody. He would not talk much, but when he spoke, he said a lot in a very few words as well. And that's something that not many can really boast of. And it came naturally to Tiger Pataudi. I came across Tiger Pataudi later on when I played for India. And I met him on a couple of occasions, but he would be very economical with words. But one particular evening, I was really lucky enough to spend a couple of hours in the company of Tiger Pataudi and Dennis Lillee. This was in Delhi when Dennis Lillee had gone there to pick a few boys for the MR Pace Foundation, and Tiger becoming aware of the fact that Dennis Lilly was in Delhi, came to visit Delhi, and all of us sat and had a chat in the hotel that Dennis Lilly was staying for that particular visit. And I was like a fan in a tennis game. I was just shifting my head from left to right and keenly listening to these two gentlemen talk about their good old days. And there's a lot of interesting topics were discussed. And Tiger, being Tiger, suddenly realized and remarked to Dennis Lilly, "Oh, Raman needs to know that we played a bit of cricket as well because we've been talking more about what we did off the field, isn't it?" And then they spoke about cricket, and that was even more enthralling, obviously. And Dennis Lilly and Tiger Pataudi talk cricket. There's a lot that you could learn from. Afterwards, I didn't really meet Tiger Pataudi on many occasions, but that charisma, that magnetism that he had was something phenomenal. What about his cricket? He was a very stylish batter. He would use his feet against the spinners, and he would also tackle the fast bowlers extraordinarily well in his own unique method, because he had to work out a method for himself because he lost his eye in that accident. And of course, he was brilliant on the field. People who had seen him at his peak, they say that there was nobody who was fielded like Tiger Pataudi, because he was perhaps the first person who would do what the modern day cricketers do. He would do the slide, and he would also use the kind of slide that the footballers do on the field of cricket. And that's what was enthralling for spectators those days. I remember that people would throng to the stadium when they heard over the radio that Tiger Pataudi had walked out to bat. And his charisma was such that, and people liked him so much, and he was so popular that it is said that at least about 10 to 15,000 people will suddenly congregate into any stadium that he was batting once they heard it on the radio. And that's the kind of personality Tiger Pataudi was. And of course, he tried his hand in broadcasting. Tried his hand is not the right phrase. He did commentate on a few occasions. Even there, he was economical, and he would convey a lot with very few words. And maybe that is something that he did not quite enjoy, because it can take a lot out of a person who likes to keep his own counsel, who was perhaps reserved, and who liked to socialize with a few people of his own choice. But nevertheless, he did keep himself in touch with the game. He picked and chose the games and the tournaments that he would commentate on. And of course, even there, people would just be waiting for him to say something. That's the kind of aura that Tiger enjoyed, and that's the kind of sense he made as well. People just wanted him to say something, because they knew when he said something, there'd be something that they would learn. And that's the reason why people always made it a point to strain their ears and pick whatever it is that Tiger was talking. You know, when I'm talking about straining ears and picking things, you are not aware of the static disturbances that one was subjected to when you listened to radio those days. And that's the reason people would strain and listen to what Tiger Pataudi had to say. But of course, once the television came into being, it was a different thing altogether. But even then, you would have a little bit of glitches now and then. But nonetheless, people enjoyed whatever Tiger Pataudi did during his career. And it's a pity that when he passed away, there was no black band on the arms of the cricketers in the match that was played immediately after his death. But that is something that's unfortunate. And Tiger Pataudi was unique, and quite obviously, everybody who played alongside him enjoyed not only the way he handled the side, they also enjoyed the way he motivated everybody. I could perhaps understand why people who played under his captaincy really loved him, because he was one who was always positive. That was very evident in the chat that we had that particular evening I was mentioning about. And he always said the best part about a cricketer, whenever I asked him about XYZ during that conversation, And that's the kind of captain any player would love to give his life for and do more than what he can. And that's the reason that everybody really rate Tiger Pataudi very highly. You also have to understand that at the time he was given the captaincy, India was not really considered a formidable force in international cricket. Yes, there were a lot of inhibitions, perhaps, with the individuals or perhaps collectively that they could not take on the best and maybe win against the best. But Tiger Pataudi inculcated a lot of self belief and also the collective belief that is required in a team sport. And he made them fight really hard. And he also handled the quartet of spinners extraordinarily well. And that's something that Tiger Pataudi was really good at, making the best use of his resources. And of course, not for nothing, he's really hailed as a fantastic captain. And of course, as far as his majestic gait and the way he did things on the field is something that people will only admire, will not even have the gall to try and do it. And that's the kind of uniqueness that Tiger Pataudi had. For those who witnessed him on a lot of occasions are really blessed. I have seen him, but unfortunately, I don't really recall much of him. But nonetheless, Tiger Pataudi was unique, and he would always go down as one of the best captains India ever had, and also, of course, one of the most charismatic cricketers that India has had. On that note, I'd like to wind up this episode by signing off by saying what I say normally. Until I catch up with you next time, be good and stay safe.